The Route 66 diner sat on the edge of Millbrook, one of those classic American diners with chrome accents, red vinyl booths, and a jukebox that still played actual records. It was Thursday afternoon, the place half full with the usual mix of truckers, retirees, and high school kids killing time before practice. Sarah Mitchell sat in her wheelchair at a corner booth, working on homework while waiting for her mom to finish her shift. At 17, Sarah had learned to navigate a world that wasn't always built for her. She'd been in the wheelchair since a car accident 3 years ago had left her with a spinal injury. She'd also learned to handle the stares, the pity, and occasionally the cruelty. What she hadn't learned was how to handle Tyler Brennan and his crew. Tyler was the kind of guy who peaked in high school and would spend the rest of his life reliving it. Quarterback, popular, from a wealthy family that donated enough to the school that his behavior was consistently overlooked. His friends, Jake, Connor, and Brad, were cut from the same cloth, entitled, cruel, and convinced their status made them untouchable. They'd been giving Sarah a hard time all year. Nothing physical, just comments in the hallways, jokes about her wheelchair, deliberate blocking of accessible routes, the kind of bullying that was hard to prove but easy to feel. Today, they'd followed her to the diner. "Hey, look who's here," Tyler announced loudly, sliding into the booth across from Sarah without invitation. His friends boxed her in, creating a wall of teenage malice. "Wheels Mitchell, shouldn't you be at the special school or something?" "I'm just trying to do homework," Sarah said quietly, not looking up. "Please leave me alone." "Please leave me alone," Tyler mimicked in a mocking voice. His friends laughed. "You know what your problem is? You think you're special because you're in that chair, like we're all supposed to feel sorry for you." "I don't think I'm special. I just want to be left alone." "Too bad." Tyler reached across the table and knocked Sarah's textbook onto the floor. "Oops, clumsy me." Sarah's mom, Karen, was working the back section. She hadn't seen what was happening. The other diners were either oblivious or pretending to be, that willful blindness people adopt when they don't want to get involved. Sarah leaned down to grab her book, and that's when Tyler did it. He slapped her. Not hard enough to leave a mark, but hard enough to sting, hard enough to humiliate. A casual backhand across her cheek, while his friends recorded it on their phones, laughing. "Maybe that'll teach you some respect," Tyler said, standing up. "Come on, guys. This place smells like loser anyway." They walked out, high-fiving each other, leaving Sarah sitting there with burning eyes and a red cheek, her hands shaking as she tried to pick up her scattered papers. Karen came rushing over, having finally noticed. "Sarah? Honey, what happened?" "Nothing, Mom. It's fine. It's not fine. Your face is red. Did someone—" Karen's eyes went to the door where Tyler's group was leaving. "Was it those boys?" "Mom, don't. It'll just make it worse. They're Tyler Brennan's crew. Nobody touches them." Karen's jaw set in a way Sarah recognized. Her mother was calculating options and finding them all inadequate. Tyler's family had money and influence. The police chief played golf with Tyler's father. The school administration had already made it clear they considered Sarah overly sensitive. "This isn't over," Karen said. "Yes, it is. It's always over. They always win." Sarah wiped her eyes angrily. "Can I just finish my homework?" Karen wanted to argue, wanted to promise she'd fix this. But they both knew the truth. Sometimes small-town power structures protected bullies, and there was nothing anyone could do about it. An hour later, the diner door opened with the jingle of bells. 5 men walked in, and the atmosphere immediately shifted. They wore leather vests over denim jackets, the kind with patches that identified them as members of the Guardians MC, a motorcycle club known throughout the region. Not outlaws, not criminals, but the kind of bikers who commanded respect through sheer presence. The leader was in his late 40s, bald with a thick beard, built like someone who'd spent years working with his hands. The diner went quiet. Even the jukebox seemed to pause. The lead biker, his vest identified him as Reaper, walked directly to Sarah's table. She looked up, alarmed, wondering what she'd done to attract attention from a motorcycle club. "Sarah Mitchell?" His voice was surprisingly gentle. Yes, my name's Derek. That's Mike, Carlos, Tommy, and Big John." He gestured to his companions, who all nodded respectfully. "We heard about what happened here earlier. Some punk kids put hands on you. Sarah's eyes widened. How did you... Small town. Word travels, especially when somebody decides to post a video of themselves committing assault online. Derek's expression hardened. See, we've got a code. We don't tolerate people who hurt those who can't defend themselves. And we especially don't tolerate people who think they're untouchable because daddy has money. I don't understand. You don't need to understand. You just need to know that what happened to you today, it's not acceptable. And it's not going to happen again. Karen appeared from the kitchen, her eyes wary. Can I help you, gentlemen? You must be Sarah's mom. Ma'am, your daughter was assaulted in your workplace about an hour ago by Tyler Brennan and his friends. Were the police called? Karen's face flushed. I wanted to, but Sarah said it would just make things worse. Tyler's family has a lot of local influence. We know. Derek pulled out his phone. But see, the thing is, when someone commits assault and films it, they create evidence. And when that evidence gets shared on social media, it becomes public record. We've already forwarded the video to the state police, the district attorney's office, and a few news stations. Sometimes local justice needs outside help. Sarah stared. You did that? Why would you help me? You don't even know me. Big John, a mountain of a man with kind eyes, spoke up. My daughter's in a wheelchair too. Cerebral palsy. She's 23 now, beautiful and strong, but she dealt with bullies growing up. I wasn't always there to protect her. That eats at me. His voice roughened. So when we hear about someone targeting a kid who can't fight back, we make it our business. We're not vigilantes, Derek clarified. We're not going to hurt anyone or break any laws. But we are going to make sure the system works the way it's supposed to. We're going to make sure everyone knows what Tyler Brennan did today. We're going to make sure he faces actual consequences. His father will make it go away, Sarah said quietly. He always does. Not this time. Mike, a lean man with graying hair, held up his phone. This video has been shared 12,000 times in the last hour. It's on the local news Facebook page, the state news Twitter, and about 40 mom groups are calling for Tyler's arrest. The Brennan family money doesn't reach far enough to disappear a viral video. By that evening, the story had exploded. The video of Tyler casually slapping a girl in a wheelchair while his friends laughed had triggered exactly the kind of public outrage that couldn't be contained by local influence. The state police showed up at Tyler's house with a warrant. He was charged with assault, a misdemeanor, but on his record nonetheless. His friends faced similar charges. The school, suddenly under intense scrutiny from the media and the state education department, had no choice but to suspend all 4 boys pending investigation. Tyler's father, used to making problems disappear, found himself facing a PR nightmare. His business, a local car dealership, was getting review bombed and boycotted. The family's reputation, carefully cultivated over decades, was in tatters. But the Guardian's MC wasn't done. They set up a rotating schedule, having at least 2 members at the diner during Sarah's after-school hours. Not threatening anyone, just present, making it clear that Sarah was under protection now. Word spread quickly. If you messed with Sarah Mitchell, you were messing with the Guardians. The bullying stopped completely. More than that, other students who'd been targets of Tyler's crew started coming forward, emboldened by Sarah's example. A pattern of behavior emerged that the school could no longer ignore. Tyler was expelled. His friends received suspensions. The school implemented a new anti-bullying program with actual teeth. 3 weeks after the incident, Sarah sat in the same booth doing homework when Derek walked in. He slid into the booth across from her, with permission this time. How you doing, kid? Better. Thank you, for everything. I don't understand why you did all this, but thank you. Derek was quiet for a moment. About 15 years ago, my sister was in a bad relationship. Guy was abusive, controlling, made her think she deserved it, made her think nobody would help her. She almost didn't make it out. I'm sorry. She survived because one person decided to help. A neighbor who called the police, testified in court, supported her through the trial even though it was inconvenient and scary. One person who decided that doing the right thing mattered more than staying out of it. Derek met Sarah's eyes. We all remember what it's like to feel helpless. We all remember what it means when someone stands up for you. That's what we do. We stand up for people who need it. But I'm not part of your club or your family. You're part of the community. That makes you our responsibility. Derek smiled. Besides, you remind Big John of his daughter. And once Big John decides to adopt someone, you're stuck with all of us. Sarah laughed, the first real laugh she'd had in weeks. I'm okay with that. 6 months later, Sarah graduated high school with honors. The Guardians MC showed up to the ceremony, all 15 members of the local chapter sitting together, cheering louder than anyone when Sarah's name was called. Tyler Brennan wasn't there. He'd transferred to a school in another county, where his family name didn't carry the same weight, where his record followed him, where people knew what he'd done. After the ceremony, Derek found Sarah. We got you something. Graduation present. He handed her an envelope. Inside was a scholarship. $10,000 toward college, funded by the Guardians MC Foundation, a charity the club ran to help at-risk youth. I can't accept this. You can and you will. You earned it. Academically and otherwise. Derek's expression was serious. You showed courage that day in the diner. You could have stayed quiet, stayed invisible, not made waves. But you let us help you. You let us make this a teaching moment. That took guts. I was terrified. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing the right thing despite the fear. You did that. Now take this money, go to college, and become whatever you're meant to be. Just promise me something. What? When you see someone who needs help, who's being targeted, who's vulnerable, you stand up for them. You be that one person who decides to give a damn. That's how we change the world, one intervention at a time. Sarah hugged him, crying into his leather vest. I promise. 5 years later, Sarah Mitchell graduated from State University with a degree in social work, specializing in advocacy for disabled youth. She worked for a nonprofit that helped families navigate systems that often failed them, fought for accessibility rights, and trained schools on anti-bullying interventions. And every year, on the anniversary of that day in the diner, she met Derek and the Guardians at the Route 66 diner for breakfast. It had become tradition, a reminder of the day her life changed because 5 bikers decided that bullying wasn't acceptable and that vulnerability deserved protection, not exploitation. The video of Tyler slapping her had become a cautionary tale used in training programs nationwide, an example of how quickly cruelty could be exposed, how public attention could force accountability, how seemingly untouchable bullies could face consequences when the right pressure was applied. Tyler himself had faded into obscurity. No college would accept him once the video resurfaced during admissions processes. No employer wanted the liability. Last Sarah heard, he was working retail somewhere out of state, probably still telling himself he was the victim. But Sarah wasn't interested in revenge. She was interested in making sure what happened to her never happened to anyone else. In making sure that vulnerable people knew someone would stand up for them. In being the person who gave a damn. Because that's what Derek and the Guardians had taught her. Sometimes the world needs people who decide that cruelty isn't acceptable, that power doesn't excuse abuse, that protecting the vulnerable is worth the inconvenience. Sometimes it takes a group of leather-clad bikers walking into a diner an hour after an assault to remind everyone that bullies only win when good people do nothing. And sometimes, the most unlikely heroes are exactly the ones we need. The bullies slapped a disabled girl in a diner, thinking they were untouchable. An hour later, bikers walked in and proved them wrong. Not with violence, not with revenge, but with something more powerful. Accountability, community, and the simple radical act of deciding that Sarah Mitchell mattered, that her dignity deserved defending, that no amount of money or influence excused cruelty. That's the lesson Tyler Brennan learned too late. That's the lesson the Guardians MC taught without ever throwing a punch. And that's the lesson Sarah carried forward for the rest of her life. That one. Person deciding to help can change everything. That vulnerability isn't weakness, and that the strongest thing you can do is stand up for someone who can't stand up for themselves, even if you're on 2 wheels instead of 2 legs, especially then.